Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. Are you ready? The solutions to the oh so tricky problems that every mid management phase of your career encounters? Well, buckle up because you're about to embark on a journey of insights, solutions, and maybe even a sprinkle of inspiration. Hey there, I'm Veda, your obviously very enthusiastic host, also known as V. I'm proud to be part of the fantastic team at Heart It Out. Our mission at Heart It Out to be your ultimate wingman or wingwoman on your quest for mental health and overall well being in the corporate jungle. Now, let me introduce you to our dynamic duo of wisdom. First up, we have the incredible Adya Mehrotra. She's not just any psychologist, she's our very own counseling powerhouse at Heart It Out. Adya's got a knack for unraveling those tricky career knots with finesse and empathy. Welcome to the webinar, Adya.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
And hold on to your hats because we've got none other than the legendary Anshuman Tiwari in the house. Who, you ask? Oh, he is like the Yoda for mid level managers, guiding countless souls to career victory with his Jedi like wisdom and mentorship. For those of you who are watching live or the recording, tomorrow is 4th of May, and I had to bring in Star Wars reference. Bear with me. And a big shout out to Anshuman for gracing us with his presence today. Thank you, Anshuman.
Thanks a lot, Veda. And I'm a little bit of a Star Wars fan myself, but more from the making of it. And I can even Randy Pausch's book, The Last Lecture, which mentions so much of Star Wars, is a book I often recommend. So there is a connection right away.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I thought I will be the only Star Wars nerd here, but I'm glad to hear that you are as well. So now here's the deal. We are going to be diving headfirst into the juicy stuff, tackling your burning questions, your tricky scenarios. So don't be shy. Drop your queries in the comments and we'll snatch them up faster than you can say, May the 4th be with you. Let's do this. So, jumping straight into our first scenario, Anshuman, long ago, I was a very new manager. My biggest struggles were I always thought I did my work best. So I couldn't delegate, or if I delegated, I didn't like the work others produced. This was if the team was less experienced than me. And sometimes I had team members who had more experience than me, but they were reporting into me. And when that happened, I got all nervous and couldn't manage the way I'm supposed to. I was pushed into management with little to no training or guidance. For newbies like me, what are your suggestions to tackle those early day managerial issues?
So first of all, I think these are not early day managerial issues. They stay for a while. So to believe that they will go away. And the reason I'm pointing it out is because a lot of people think that when you call something early days, it means that in a few days it will get over. It doesn't get over. So the struggle is real. The second point I can quickly make is that, one thing about being a new manager is that you can't now blame anybody else. Till you are not a manager, you can blame your company, you can blame your manager, you can blame HR, you can blame neighbor's dog, spouse, everybody else. So, big problem with becoming a manager is that, or getting any promotion, is that you can't, at least for another year or so, you can't any longer blame anybody. And that creates a problem. We lived for so long in that culture of blaming everybody else for our mistakes or limitations that we now can't actually live up to the situation where we are responsible for our own team. So that, into my understanding, that is where this dis or lack of connection starts and disjointed feeling starts, because we've come back from a to the new promoted place from a culture of blame and others are useless and I am the shining star, my manager is useless and everybody else, and then I am the manager now. So the others are now saying the things that I used to say for me. So the now coming to your specific question about delegation and other things related, these are skills that can be learned. The mindset that can't be learned easily is the fact that now you are the manager and you are not supposed to be doing, or you are not made the manager to do what you were doing any better. So for example, many salespeople are not never become good sales territory managers because they are very good at the hustle of going every day, standing, making that sale and keeping the document, making sure. But the moment they have to teach it to others, they don't know. Uh, and there are a lot of examples, at least in my career, very good individual contributors don't become very good managers. So this is also, on the company. And we see it in sports all the time. A lot of good players don't become very good captains or very good managers also, or coaches. Why? Because they lack that management skill of managing people. It can be learned, but some of it is, takes a long time to learn. So maybe you don't have that time to learn. So my general view is that if one is caught into this and does not have the input, like you said, you became a manager without any training and guidance, then look for that guidance and don't believe that you already know. Look for that guidance, talk to people. There will be other people who are far better than you. And that is the only way, at least in my, hyper practical approach to life. That's that's what I see.
I completely agree. And I really loved your reference where you said that a lot of good sportsmen, they don't become good captains or good coaches. And in this IPL season, we can totally relate to that. So is it on the organization to ensure that they nurture the people so that they can become that managers, or identify that this person is not just a good individual contributor, he or she can also be a good mentor. Who is it up to? Is it up to the organization to identify, or is it for the person to identify? Is it for the team to identify? Who do you think is responsible for that, Anshuman?
I can tell you that it's certainly not the person because he or she will never know. Uh, you are, you know, if I'm the candidate, then I'm always going to believe that I'm God's gift to mankind. Why am I going to look for, I don't have this and this? Some very critical, self-critical people might be able to do that, and that's a skill or that's a talent as well. But generally, people don't see any shortcomings in themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and this is human nature. And so it's about then others. So definitely the manager, the person who proposed the promotion or the promotion to the managerial level should be able to see that does this candidate have the required skills for the next level?
Hmm.
Does he or she have the people skills that are needed, the collaboration skills that are needed, and maybe in global organizations, even stakeholder management skills, because you might have to manage across borders. Some people are I've had very good team members who are very good managers in one particular country, but the moment you gave them a global role, boom, they can't. So that's another skill I've learned over the last few years is that you have to keep that in mind as well. So certainly I think the most responsible one is the manager who proposes the promotion, because generally organizations will, because for a large organization, one promotion is not, something that there can be a systemic arrangement to evaluate. Very difficult. There will be guidelines. So it is up to the manager usually, I would say.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Anshuman, for that. So, Adya, what do you say for a new managers when, or if you had met me when I was a new manager, what would you have told me, especially when I had troubles letting go and I was plagued my own, like, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? What do you say to a person like me?
I would first of all agree with Anshuman's points. They were very insightful. And just to add on to what all my psychology knowledge says to you as a new manager, I would like to start with delegation. So, with delegation, if you're delegating work, first of all, you should identify what your strengths and weaknesses are, right? You should recognize the tasks you excel at first and those that might be better suited for others for delegation. And starting small, like delegate manageable tasks initially and providing clear instructions first, and then gradually increasing the complexity, right? And psychologically, there are a lot of fears associated with it, like fear of failure. Like you might be worried that you delegate something and something goes wrong. It will reflect poorly on you, right? So this is a very common concern, right? And control issues, you have a strong desire to maintain control over every aspect of that project, while setting clear expectations is very, very important. Micromanagement is something that a lot of people suffer with these days, procrastinating, micromanaging, and confidence in your team. So if you have hired someone, it is you, right? You have hired them for a reason. So believe in their skills and give them the opportunity that they deserve, their opportunity to shine. This is something that I would like to start with delegation, right? Now, when it comes to appreciation, that you should appreciate your team members. So your focus should be on appreciation more rather than individually. So I think the team management really reflects on your leadership. So yeah, I mean that is for appreciation and delegation that I could say.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adi. I really connected with the control issues there. And you mentioned that identify strengths and weaknesses. And somebody in the comment have also said that nature versus nurture debate, that people are naturally able to do something and they are able to learn something else as time goes by. And to identify what you can naturally do well, or what you can learn and to get better, and what you cannot get better because that's just not in your way of doing at all. Identifying that as in yourself as a new manager, and also identifying that in your team and giving them work according to that is really, really important. I think that makes perfect sense. Thank you so much. So we have been speaking a lot about new managers and their worries, their trials and tribulations. But what about an experienced manager? I'm going to take my own example as well. From a new manager, I started moving into the ladder and I went up a little bit. I lost touch as I was going ahead with technology and functionality, so most of my time was spent in talking to my team, getting updates from my team, directing them in what they have to do. So at some point, I started feeling like I have lost touch with technology and functionality, and therefore my team was not respecting me. And I thought I was no longer relevant. And this put me in a really bad mental state. And sometimes I also got really jealous of people working under me when they did a spectacular job that overshadowed my role, right? So obviously, the way for me to get out of that was to step up to the next level, but I felt stuck and I didn't know how to step up to the next level. So, for a person who is struggling with all of this, what do you tell them?
Okay. So, staying relevant and reconnecting with your team, I think reconnection should be the first step. Taking proactive steps to reconnect with, like scheduling one on one meetings to discuss what their goals are, what challenges they are facing, how they are viewing their successes, showing genuine interest in their work, and supporting and guiding them, leading by example, demonstrating your expertise, your values on them. And I think even if you've delegated the work, offer to mentor them, offer to mentor your juniors and also your seniors if uh, I think then if you provide assistance on the complex tasks that they're dealing with, showcases all your skills and knowledge and makes you more relevant, right? And in therapy, if you are choosing to go for therapy, identify what your skill gaps are. Work with your therapist and identify areas relevant to your company's future and develop a plan to learn these new skills.
Mhm.
So, and the most important thing is feedback. Seek feedback, give feedback. I think feedback is the only thing that keeps us going, right? To be better, to be the best. So I think these are some of the points in staying the relevant in that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is every person has that unique skill, and making sure that you identify, you help others in mentoring others through that, that is really really important. Thank you so much, Adya. Anshuman, before we get into the same question for you, there are a couple of questions in the comments and I was wondering if you could take those. The first one is, how does a manager identify if they need help to improve as a leader, right? So you mentioned that it's human nature not to see the mistakes that we do, and therefore very importantly this person has asked, how do we identify that we need to improve as a leader?
I think the answer is in the question, Veda, because self-awareness is step one to everything. The fact that you can understand that we don't know everything and we will need help is step one in every journey. Even if you have to take a bus and go to another station or intercity or a train or flight, whatever, you need to know where you are and where you have to go. So the same in life and the same in managerial situations. I I don't know how anybody else, including me, Adya, or anybody else, from fantastic companies like Heart Cloud, can help anyone if they are not understanding that they need help.
Mm,
So, and you can look around yourself. We all have families, extended families, neighbors, organizations. So many examples of people who just close their eyes and think that they are God's gift to mankind and no improvement is now possible, and so on. So I always bring this kind of question back to, and the next step always is, once the student is ready, the teacher arrives. So it's not the other way around. The awareness is hugely important. And also what happens, I think, briefly to borrow a point from you, what you made earlier with that the most difficult transition is not from individual contributor to team manager. The most difficult transition is to manager of managers, because now you have to teach what you are supposedly good at, because you've been made manager of managers because you probably did a good job as a manager. Now you have to give up your doing part and now teach others. And in teaching, you have to have patience, resilience, persistence, understanding, ability to differentiate, and so many other skill sets come in, which you didn't need when you were the manager.
mm,
So the same applies in this for this question as well. Please, some practical tips I can offer is that please read as much as you can. Read books, speak to different people, um, seek out different experiences. One of the problems I have with most people I speak to when they come to me for coaching, is that they just have similar friends. They don't have any friends who are different from them. How are you going to enrich your experiences, which will force you to think about something else? I would like to be friends even with people I don't agree with. I am very happy to have a conversation with somebody who I know that I have a disagreement with. That's my opportunity to grow. If you and I agree fully on something, none of us are any wiser at the end of 1 hour. Right? Maybe we enjoyed the conversation and whatever we had along with it, coffee or choice of poison. But none of us are any wiser. We didn't grow. But if you seek out, if you find people who might disagree or have a different point of view, contrary point of view, or tangential point of view, you will certainly grow. And this is where you learn. So please at work, if this is a question asked by somebody who's currently working, at work, if you are only mixing up or blending in with similar groups, this is a very, very big red flag for me because you are not growing. Please find out people who are slightly different, including, I don't smoke, for example, but I'm always found in smoking zones in companies because, the people I want to talk to are there. And I don't mind the small passive smoking for a little bit time because I can't find those other people anywhere else. So what do you do? So I mean, it's a harsh example, but that's how working life is.
Absolutely. And I really, really resonate with what you said. Don't surround with people who are similar to you. And it's very important for leaders, actually. They say, I recently read it in LinkedIn, that as an exec, chief exec, or in one of the CXO roles, the most important thing is to surround yourself at your level or even one level below with people who will challenge you. If you are surrounded by people who will always agree to what you're saying or go
Yeah.
along with what you're saying, then you are you are the one forced to fix all of the situation, and that is really, really important to have those people who challenge you and say, are you sure this is the right approach? Are you sure this is the only way? Why can't we do this? Why not do that? Why not do that? So you need that sort of people who challenge you, like that. So and going back to the question that this person asked and you have answered, Anshuman, is if you need a plan, if you don't have a plan, people always ridicule when somebody asks, what is your plan? How do you see yourself in 1 year? How do you see yourself in 5 years? I don't know. I didn't see COVID coming up 5 years back. How will I know what happens? No, but you're still supposed to know. You need to have some target, and if you don't meet or if you're not moving towards that target, that's when you know you need to improve as a person and also as a leader. That's one of the points that you said. You have
I'll
a clear idea.
I'll add a little bit to that, Vida.
Hmm.
I often say that, and this is not my quote, I just twisted it a little bit to in a managerial situation, that plans are useless, but planning is useful. The
Hmm.
act of planning is very important because that makes you think forward, that makes you understand your limited resources, that makes you understand your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, everything.
Hmm.
The plan you make may eventually not roll out because life may have changed by then. Like you said, COVID may happen or something else may happen. And in organizational sense, smaller versions of COVID happen all the time. Right. So not in the pandemic sense, but in business sense. So plans never actually become or roll out the same way as we planned. But the act of planning, particularly group planning, makes you very wise, and then you can repeat it. Then you can do it again because
Hmm.
you've done it once. So planning is extremely important. Plan itself may not be uh, that important or always useful.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. Again, going back to another question from the audience, and Adya, was wondering if you could take it. How do I handle conflicts or disagreements between team members while maintaining productivity and morale? How do you think we should do that?
So I think when it comes to conflicts, it is very normal to have conflicts, right? And to handle them is open communication, very, very important, but definitely self care also very important when it comes to you because you're going to navigate through these problems. And open communication, as in, so I have done group therapy. I be the moderator. So in the company setting, you be in a group, you be the moderator and try to solve the problems. Try to listen to each one of that person and then see if you can, help them solve it. So I think having that group discussion in a team is very, very important because it is how you showcase your abilities, right? So I think in a group you can have.
So I had this friend. She's a CHRO of a big company, and all the people who were at the managerial and leadership level, they all had big for lack of better word, presence or egos. And she tried to do all of these, moderation and everything, and it did not work. At one point, what she said was, you know what? Let's all get into a room. You yell and scream and shout and get it all out of your system. Okay, we're not doing that in front of the rest of the company. We are going to lock ourselves in a room. We are going to do that, and then we will all feel like all of our frustrations have been, if not heard, at least out there. And then we will start talking like people after that. So that is also one way where you just say, well, lock yourself in a room, yell, scream, do, kick, whatever, and then get back to the problem and try to solve it together.
Yeah, exactly. And that mindset comes with a lot of healthy self-esteem. So in therapy, we help you build a better self-esteem by focusing on the underlying anxieties that you have of your own self-worth. As Anshuman also mentioned, that self-awareness is very important. So to showcase this, like just your friend did, it is that I think she has like really healthy self-esteem.
Right. Thank you, Adya. I know we have to get back to our planned questions in the webinar, but there is one more question which I really liked in the comments as well. We'll go through that, and Anshuman, if you can take that question. How do we break the tough nut, the domain expert or individual contributor who's unwilling to step up and be a people manager, who's essential in one's leadership, which is essential for one's leadership journey? That is, it goes back to the same thing that you said. Some people are natural leaders, some people are not. They are better off as individual contributors. How do we handle this situation? Do we leave them as individual contributor? Do we promote them as into leadership role because they will have aspirations? What do we do in this situation?
I think, yeah, so first thing, of course, we are assuming that they might have aspirations. I know a lot of individual contributors who are very good in their technical domain and have zero aspiration of doing any management or leadership role. Um, and their logic is that, and which is partly true, that many of these roles, particularly in large organizations, become very administrative roles. One third and sometimes even half of the role is actually a lot of administrative work, which some people just are not aligned to. They don't like it. And why do something that you don't like? So if there is an opportunity, of course. So my general view is that, first of all, we are assuming that, they may have the aspiration, they may not have. The difficulty is that when they have the aspiration, but they don't have the skill set, right? So there is a difference between what they want and what they can. So the want is, I want to be this, but I don't have the skill set, resources, resources as a full word where it includes all my skill sets and everything, your capabilities, temperament, attitude, everything. It doesn't take me to there. This is that is when you need an intervention from his or her manager to take them out and say that, look, you have the aspiration. The current understanding of the management group is that you don't have these skill sets. It is not likely that you will get the role without this. I can sit with you to help you, you know, maybe overcome these gaps. Obviously, all gaps can't be overcome, but at least the main ones can be. Give them assignments to maybe, if they are not good in very collaborative team situations, give them some projects where they will have to necessarily have some collaborative situations. And if they do well, then they have a next step. It's like a game. If they don't do well, another chance. They still don't do well, then the answer is there for everybody to know that, look, boss, you don't have this. At least in this organization, it's not working out. If you still have the aspiration, the world is a big place. Please find out another organization where they may take a risk with you. And as a manager of managers, you have to take that call at some point. So my general method is, and I've gone through many such situations in life, in a long career. This is what I do, and I see it always work. And there are some people whom you have to just tell that you can have any aspiration that you want, but it's not. You are not even, you are, barely holding on to your current job. Forget the next one. So, but I assume that the question that was asked was not for such people. It was more in a positive frame that how do you handle such people? So I'll summarize. One, don't assume that they have the aspiration. And if they have the aspiration, then it's a very easy conversation, actually. People are willing to learn if they have the aspiration and are told, uh, and the way you can tell is, different for everybody. I can be, my nature and my approach at work is I can be direct and blunt, and people take it because I'm that with everybody else, so I'm not singling out people. But other people may have other approaches, but the core message that then you have to tell that person in the face that there are 4 things needed, you have only one, 3 skills are not there. So you are not going to make it. I can help you with 2 of these. You can talk to somebody else for one, and let's give it a try. So that's how I would summarize. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, thank you, Anshuman, and thank you for asking those questions from the audience. Please keep the questions coming. Before we close on that question, Anshuman, I have one thing which is in line with the same question that this person asked. You mentioned that like there are 4 things and you have one and you are lacking on 3, so people can try and learn that on their own, or they can learn it from others, looking at others, and everything. I always wondered, do these 1 or 2 day leadership courses, do they help people? Because you will be working under some pseudo situation. It may or may not be real world situation. Can you develop the skills that you lack by going for these leadership courses that are half a day, 1 day long, do you think?
Obviously not. I don't. It is like, you have fever and you just go to the doctor and don't take the medicine that the doctor gave you.
Mm,
Uh, it's not going to have any effect, right? So, if you, and just to be fair to the leadership, these conclaves, 2 day, 3 day, it it gives you an opportunity to start a journey.
mm,
The journey is still yours. You have to take the first step. In some courses or some workshop, they will also help you take the first step, depending on the facilitator and so on. But the next step is still yours. Even if you take 10 steps in that, this 11th step is yours. The facilitator or your manager or the HR is not going to come and do that for you, right? In fact, secretly many HRs will be very happy that this guy fell off the rails because now they have a lesser task to choose between less people. So I say half in jest, but also seriously that you know from if I was HR and there are 10 candidates for a post and 3 of them fail to do step 2 of a workshop. Fantastic. I have 7 people to choose from now,
mm,
right? Those 3 people can go to hell. I don't care. So there is that point of view as well. They can keep sulking and thinking that, oh, the company didn't support me and this and that. The world is under no obligation to fulfill your dreams. I say this very often. It is up to us and for us to take that action to help us fulfill our own dreams. The world has their own dreams, and everybody is fulfilling their own dreams, under no obligation to fulfill our dreams. That doesn't happen anywhere. I, I, I would take that question this way, that the conclaves help, but they only help you to put you on a journey, and the steps are still yours. In that sense, the conclave definitely help, or any intervention. There is a therapist, for example, or a psychologist specialist. So you can argue that way also. You went to a therapist and they suggested 3 things. You don't do any of those 3 things. Then you go back and say after 1 week that, oh, Adya, by the way, refund my money because, it's not useful. So, where will that work? So I see it this way. very, very useful. All interventions are like this only, whether they are medical, whether they are legal, whether they are, leadership oriented or anything. So, yeah, I said this earlier, self-awareness and then execution. Know the plan, at least the school that I come from, the school of hard knocks. There is nothing else.
Yeah, no, I like the point that you started with. You go to a doctor and they give you a pill. It's up to you to take the pill. So these conclaves or these therapy sessions even are like that pill. They give you that pill. It's up to you to take it, and that's when you grow. Anyways, moving on. So we have been talking about new managers, manager of managers and everything, but it doesn't matter where you are, whether you are a new manager or manager of managers. Sometimes you are stuck between the people who report to you and then people you report to, right? Let's say my manager, my senior manager, is forcing some impossible deadlines on my team and on me. Or I have been allocated a really small salary revision budget for my team. How do I protect my team, but at the same time, not put myself under my manager's line of fire? How do I do that? Anshuman, do you want to take this question?
First of all, it is not a hypothetical scenario. This happens all the time.
All
So,
the time.
yeah. So, resources by nature are limited. So, if anybody wants to believe that they will have a bag full of money at the end of the year and they can distribute, not happening. Secondly, while it is your team, it is not only your team. It is the organization's team as well. They also think of people's benefit. So while I love my team, they love me back, but I'm not their parent. So they have to take care of themselves as well. My bottom line is that many people come to me moaning and groaning that, I have not had a salary hike, I have not had this, I have not had no promotion, next pay that. And beyond a point, I say that fine, if some other company can give you that, please, find a way. Now, it may sound rude, but what I'm reminding them is that, look, if your skill sets are more saleable elsewhere and you are confident of that, I will be the first person to, or the happiest person to let that happen. Because in the current situation, I am unable to give you a promotion. I am unable to give you any salary hike. I am unable to give you a bonus uh, based on the money that I am allocated. But if somebody else can, fantastic. So no hard feelings about that. I think as you grow, I've handled pretty large teams, and these are very, very normal situations. People just take it too personally, that as if the manager is actually deliberately cutting their increment and bonus and that may happen in 0.00001% in some cases in some organizations where there is friction between the manager and the team member, but apart, and that evidence will be there through the year. It doesn't just suddenly come in the at the end of the year, right? So you've been sitting under a rock maybe all year and didn't notice all of this, and then now during the salary part or the end of the year or appraisal or other such end of the year events, now you suddenly realize that is stupidity. You were blind throughout the year or sitting under a rock, didn't realize. And I'm saying this with full responsibility. I've been in that position. So I was blind, I was stupid, I was sitting under a rock. And that's when I learned this lesson that look, you know, and it's not personal at all. So I I don't have a very good answer to this question, except that this is life, take it and move on. If you think it is unfair, it is unfair. So there is nothing unfair in any case. Everybody has limited resources. So this question actually is out of syllabus for me.
I completely understand where you're coming from, Anshuman. There are limited resources, but taking the same question back to Adya, right? So I am a very passionate person, right? And when there is so much work on my team, and they are slogging really hard, or I know that they have worked really, really hard, and I know they deserve a lot more salary. I do at some part understand that this is all the resources I have, and I can give them, or this is the way it is supposed to be. They have to work, or this is the salary that they can get. But how do I communicate that to my team in a way that makes sense to them? Or at the same time, how do I not internalize it as a manager myself?
Okay, I can understand that this situation can be very tricky, but I have some pointers how you can approach this with empathy and open communication. First of all, definitely acknowledge their worth, validate their feelings of disappointment, and let them know that you recognize their contributions and why they do deserve a raise. And also, while you're acknowledging their worth, also validate their frustration. They might be frustrated. It is very natural to feel that way when your value isn't reflected in your compensation. Listen without any judgment and allow them to express their emotions freely. Focus on the bigger picture. I would say that explain the limitations that you are facing. While you might not have the control over the situation, you can explain the factors affecting the decisions, like if it's not coming from the higher authority. You can definitely help them process this news. There are a lot of coping mechanisms. Give them time to reflect, while others can might want to brainstorm these solutions. And to help them feel better, focus on their strengths and give them future options. Maintain a very positive relationship with them. I think these are some of the ways in which you can help them, but mainly open communication.
All right.
And
Okay.
also, sorry, I would like to add one more point, that remember that it is not your fault. It is not that you advocated for them, but it was ultimately not your decision. So
Yeah.
focus on what you can't control, and this is something that you can't. Yeah.
Yeah, and Adya, well said. And I was about to add this point that, so before this situation, and you did give other examples, whether that, your team gets a lot of work and sometimes, beyond their capacity and all that. To the extent you can fight it as a manager, you should. Once it is on the table and you have agreed, then you have to get it done. So then forget it. And I often explain it as in a borrowing a psychological example, and Adya, don't murder me for this, but I do explain it in a practical sense that there is something called issues and assumptions, right? So, for example, in Bangalore, traffic is an issue.
Mm.
Right? So wherever you have to go, traffic is an issue. Suppose you make it an assumption that I know that if I have to go here, I can expect 1 hour of traffic. Assumption is that there will be another half an hour of traffic, and plan properly, right? Then it is no longer an issue. It is an assumption. You have built it into your plan. And that's how life turns out to be. Good managers then turn issues into assumptions and plan accordingly. And if that issue doesn't materialize, fine, you had more time on your hand. I will reach the airport early, or I will reach the place early. That's all. If you carry a good book with you always, no problem. Issue becomes a graver issue because you are late all the time leaving home, and then you always blaming traffic, and you knew that the traffic will be there. Bangalore, you can expect traffic any time of the day, anywhere, any route. And I'm just singling out Bangalore because I stay in Bangalore, but I'm sure this is true for most developing world countries or cities. So same happens that in your careers as well. In fact, I draw a lot of more. Many of my LinkedIn posts are drawing parallels between traffic and mid-career. So, this is one of the more popular ones that I share. That issues and assumptions. So you turn the issue into an assumption, and that's it. Then it is part of your planning, and we do it all the time at work. Why not for this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. I mean, if you are not planning for contingencies, then There is nothing you can do. And if you are not able to give the news to your team or your manager that this is not going to happen, okay, if you're not going to be clearly communicating that, whether they agree to that or not is irrelevant. You have to put your foot down and say, look, I don't think this can happen in the timeline that you have proposed, but you're not budging, so expect delays, but we will try our best. So that's all you can do. If you cannot negotiate further time, that's all you can do. So that's what you need to do. All right, great. Finally, one final scenario, and if people in the audience have any other questions, please put that in the comments. But Adya, one of the things that Anshuman said was, if a person is not having the right set of skill set to be a leader, then you tell them openly. Anshuman is very good at saying that openly. That's what he said. But I am not like that. I am very wishy washy. I want to give my constructive criticism properly. I completely subscribe to this idea that of sandwich. So I have one layer of good news, one layer of things to improve, and another layer of good news. Sometimes people tell me that I only saw all the two good news layers, and I have completely not looked into that criticism or ways of improvement layer at all. It went through my over my head like that. So how do I say my point to my team member properly without being wishy-washy, but at the same time not being, in your face? How do I do that? And so how do I also tell not just my team member but also my manager, if he or she is being too demanding to me, giving deadlines and not accepting my concerns about the deadlines? How do I tell him or her that this is not happening without being rude? What is your suggestions for those type of situations?
I would say that attack the action and don't attack the person, please. Like focus on their behavior and not the personality. Using statements like, when you make decisions without consulting the team, it can lead to dash, right? Using I statements, express your feelings and your perspective without blaming the person, right? Without saying that, hey, you did this wrong. So just say like, I feel frustrated when this happens, using I statements there, and focusing on the solutions, offer alternative solutions, and suggest a more collaborative approach, like perhaps next time we can do this, like we could see it in a different way. Definitely timing and location really matters. So choose like a private, calm setting for having this conversation, not like in a group. And yeah, I think positivity, focus on the positive outcomes, frame the discussion as a way to improve communication and achieve better results together.
All right, thank you. I'm going to
So,
keep that as an
wi-
something that I do. Go ahead, Anshuman.
yeah, I can't. I was turning back and looking for a book that I could recommend. But what Adya said is exactly, you know, uh, detailed out in a fantastic book called Crucial Conversations. I would
Mhm.
strongly recommend if people are having trouble having these crucial conversations. This is the book itself is called Crucial Conversations, and the author is Kerry Patterson. There are three, four authors, but I think Kerry is the main author. He's the main researcher. Fantastic book. Not a very thick book, very light book, but very deep and profound, and with a lot of practical tips as to how you can create a safe environment and why it is important from both parties. Generally, people who struggle to give this kind of feedback are thinking only about their point of view. They're not thinking about the receiver's point of view, and not out of malice or any prejudice. It is just the way they think, but at work it's not helping them, so it's not helping the organization. So if it is your personal relationship, it was okay to, like you said, wishy-washy, or because that's people understand you, right? So at work it may not be that straightforward. So all this is very beautifully explained and with some practical tips in this book, Crucial Conversations by Kerry Patterson and team.
Definitely picking that one up, because I think it's going to be the one that makes me have proper crucial conversations. I'm definitely taking that.
Send me your address after this call. I will send you.
Oh, that is so nice of you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anshuman. So just curious, what, in your opinion, was the most difficult conversation that you ever had with anybody, whether it is your manager or with your team? Do you have any examples of a really difficult conversation that you had with somebody?
Veda, I'm close to 30 years in working. So every year there are tens of these conversations, but some of them are, of course, very easy to highlight. One is when I was told I was not good enough for that role, when I was actually at the peak of my career and doing very well. And the crucial conversation was very poorly handled, I thought, from my manager, because there was no um, no ground for what was being shared. But I'm glad I took it well and moved on and have lived to tell this tale. Someday I will name the person. so, uh,
In
but
your
that's
autobiography, there will one day
yeah,
be
yeah.
an Anshuman Tiwari says it all, and there will
It
be the
wasn't that
names.
dramatic, but since you asked, I think, and the reason I share this, Veda, always when somebody asks me this question is because I want to normalize this situation. This happens to everybody. Right. Many people may see me today as successful and both in my career and on LinkedIn and coaching others XYZ and all that. It's not always like this. There are very very low moments that we also have, and the only thing that saves us, some of people like me who are more, I would say, relatively more self-aware, is that because we have talked about these situations many times with others, when it happens to us, we are fine. It's like if you're selling insurance and your car gets hit, you know exactly what to do because you've been telling everybody else what to do. Mostly, I mean, there might be some dumb people even there, but in general. So this was one, and then of course the most difficult ones. This happened to me, but the other ones are when I've had to cut my team because of cost issues, and that really takes it sucks the life out of you because it just yeah, I am a very good sleeper. I am a happy sleeper. I don't lose sleep over anything. But these are the moments, or those are the days when I actually lose sleep. But then next day you wake up and say, okay, fine, we've lived to fight another day. So yeah, so these two I would single out. First one is specific to me. Second one is over a long period of long career. You will have many moments like that, of course.
Yeah, I completely understand, especially the second part. If you are in the industry long enough as a manager or as a manager of managers, at some point you would have to give this news that unfortunately I have to let you go. You're a good person, but I still have to let you go because that is what is necessary for the organization at this point of time. So, Adya, when if I have to have this conversation with somebody in my team who I completely respect and is a really good person, delivers all the time, but unfortunately they still have to go because that's what the organization has decided. And I cannot just lie. There was some part I also played because nobody just gives you a list, especially if you are a manager of managers. They just don't give you a list and say, go do this. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they would have asked you, and you had no choice but to say this person is probably the one that comes under that line and has to go. How do you communicate that? And as Anshuman said, how do you not lose sleep over that?
Mhm. So I understand that it's very difficult to have someone be removed from some place which was you were so close to, right? So again, the severity of the disagreement is very something that we need to work on, and have really open communication and not let it impact your work, right? And this is something, it's a harsh truth. We have to do it no matter what. This is something that is not under our control. So you should just not forget, but try to minimize the self blaming and do a lot of self care, follow a lot of coping mechanisms. But yeah, self care here, the most important thing, being a middle manager, you should focus 1 hour every day on just yourself and not do anything, not think about anything. And that helps you cope, right? So I think self awareness here, like Anshuman mentioned, and also self care, very important to deal with situations, tough situations like this.
So what are some of the self-care things that I can do? For example, my partner, he compartmentalizes really well. So he'll be in too much stress during the day, but at night, he's such a sound sleeper. He will just go to bed and will be like immediately sleeping. I, on the other hand, is completely on the opposite spectrum. I'll be smiling, laughing, and internally crying, and all of that throughout the day. And I will be smiling, laughing, internally crying throughout the night as well, and I will lose sleep. So, what sort of self care can I do when I'm stressed out between my people who report to me and people I report to? Um, what self care techniques that on a daily basis I can do so that I sleep better?
Self care can be as simple as just taking a break. Like, I don't want to look into this right now. I'm just taking like a half an hour break and just go out, take a walk, and come back. Self care can be as simple as, going out on a drive, cooking your favorite dish. Just very simple, like doing dancing, singing. Self care doesn't have to be very specific for managers. It's the same for everyone. It is something that you do for yourself, right? Something that you love to do, something that cannot be taken away from you no matter how hard someone tries. That is within you. That is self care.
All right. Okay. I can do all of that except the cooking part, which I do not like, but the rest I can try. So, Anshuman, do you have any such self care routines that you do that helps you de stress?
Not really. Like I said, in most situations, and this is probably over the years, if you are aware, you actually build your own mechanisms. So I do like taking a walk, so that helps. And in general, I find somebody who I can talk to, but nothing. I don't have actually this issue, really this issue. I can sleep fairly well. In fact, the running joke in the family is that if I'm very stressed, I'm deep asleep. So, so I'm the wrong person for this question because I just don't have this issue at all. And frankly, I think Vida, this is a good point that to assume that because you are reacting differently to the stress means you are any lesser or any better than your partner is probably the wrong approach. We are just all of us are different. We react to different stimuli, different situations differently. And just because maybe I can still go to sleep with a very stressful day at work, or if I have a 5 a.m. presentation to some audience in the US or whatever, uh, I can sleep very well. Even during college days and all, I still remember I had I have a very tough exam the next day, but I am sleeping very well, no problem. But that didn't make me any less worried or not that I was careless or anything. It's just me. Other people would wake up all night and go to the exam, and maybe our scores will be similar. So I think we sometimes overreact to this situation. Everybody has different mechanism. Your lack of sleep is your mechanism of coping.
Mm.
You are coping that way. I am coping by sleeping. So, so it's the same thing. So I don't actually want to see too much into this because all of us are very, very different. from each other, and our methods, reactions. Uh, in fact, the same person's reaction in with the same stimuli over a period of time can be different.
Yeah.
How you
Yeah.
react today to one situation could be very different 3 years from now, or 3 years earlier, or whatever. I mean, even maybe 3 days earlier. So we are all very different. So no pressure.
Absolutely. I love that. And thank you so much, Adya. And thank you, Anshuman, for such a brilliant session. I had a lot of learning